everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday PD. We're wrapping up the year, getting down the downhill slide. Today, I'm going to answer a few questions that came in the last couple of weeks. I just added the attendance link again. So I haven't been doing attendance all year, but we just started and we'll continue this going forward. So in the chat, click the little link and you just basically click present, present, and you'll be there. You'll be in the list. And if you need at some point later on, I can keep track of the hours and give you a single document that tells how many times you were present. So we'll start doing that from this point on. All right, so what I want to talk to you today about a couple things as we wrap up the year end. One little kind of fun project we've been working on at the high school level that I think will be fun to start doing at the younger grades. So I'm going to kind of share that, kind of a recording video thing. And then talking about hardware. I've been getting a lot of students come to me, mostly seniors, and say, Mr. Kelly, I'm going to start college next year. What laptop do you recommend? And so this, you may not be in the market for one, and that's cool. But I just think it's a good conversation to have about the process of buying hardware, where you go to look for it, find good deals, and what do you really need and all that kind of stuff. If you are, if your student themselves are looking for different machines over the summer or for next year, this is a good conversation to have. And then we'll wrap it up. I have another site that I just discovered not too long ago, virtual vacation. So now that we're starting to able to get out a little bit more than normal, kind of travel around a little bit, you'll be able to go around and see different sites. It's not just Google Earth. It's a little bit more involved in that, where you can actually go visit the places and kind of see information about it and so forth. So we'll end with that. So first thing I wanted to share, let me do a quick screen share here. So this was a project that I gave to my high school students, the broadcasting kids. And what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to start, not just the high school, but we'll kind of work our way down, is having students record kind of, reflectionary videos, maybe at the end of the year type thing. And in this case, what I asked the seniors to do is record themselves basically talking to their 8th grade selves. What advice would they give themselves that only they could give in 8th grade? And so what I'd like to do is get to the point where we're actually having 8th grade students as well, recording what they think it's going to be like as they're a graduating senior, and then maybe we can get other grade levels as well. So wouldn't it be fun to have, a group of videos that all the students have of themselves, throughout the years. Now, it's a lot of work to lay out initially, but once it's set up, it was pretty easy. The thing that I didn't expect as much, now I did tell these guys I wasn't going to share them today, so I'm not going to play any right now, but they are really, really amazing as far as they're pretty touching. So I think it's worth the time to do it. And so if we are able to collect those, kind of put them together, I could foresee a situation where we see, what does the 4th grade that student think of what they'll be like when they're graduating? What's the 8th grade version? And then looking as a senior back, and how fun will that be to have this? So I use Flipgrid to do this. Super easy. The kids, literally the hardest part of this whole project is them just clicking record and talking. The more we do of this, the more they get in the habit of just doing a quick reflection. That's just very, very straightforward. Talk to the camera, no big deal. I think the more we do that, the less it becomes a big problem as far as the logistics of it. How do I do this? What do I do next? This is the link, and let's see if I have it on here. I'll put it in the show notes here. 1 second, in the chat. This is the link to the open, if you're interested, if you want your students to do this, to the open Flipgrid. Now, this would be the one for the future them. And so the question is, what do you want to tell your future self as you graduate years from now? So the idea would be is, what would you tell yourself as a graduating senior? And my recording here is just basically saying that. And then we'd be able to connect those with the students that have been recorded later on. One fun activity I've had the kids do in the past, and they're just getting them now, is when we started broadcasting classes at the beginning of the year, they would write themselves an email at the end of the year. One thing you can do in Gmail is you can schedule send. So you can write yourself an email and say, well, I want to send this whenever, a year from now, a month from now, day from now, whatever. And so I would typically have them write themselves an email, and they're starting to receive those now this time of year. So it's kind of fun. So if you are interested in that, I think it'd be awesome. I was, like I said, surprised at how powerful some of these were. So it's really great. I think the more we do this, the better it'll be. If anyone has questions on that, feel free to throw them in the chat or just holler at me. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I did get a question from Mila about the laptops. We're still selling the laptops. Are they still available? You have to email Sue Page. I'm not sure if she has any left. We did have some. The ones that they had were the Chromebooks. These were the an old version of Chromebooks. I think they were a couple years old. As many of you know, how to switch this off here. We don't need the screen share for a second. As many of you know, we are more flush in machines and laptops than we ever have been. Very fortunate for that. In fact, we're gearing up for the next round of the MLTI outreach, which will be the 7th and 8th graders. We'll be seeing machines in the fall. So those machines will get kind of transferred around and you know, as it happens, right? We've done this before. The new machines coming that we'll be getting are convertibles, and what that means is they are, we've seen these before, but they work as a laptop, but they also flip all the way around. They also come with a pen. So we'll do training on that specifically once they arrive. They're I don't know, they're due to come here this summer at some point. But when they get here, we'll do PD around that and for the students and so forth. But you'll be able to use that tablet mode and use tablet apps, much like you do on your phone, say, as well as doing the laptop stuff, you know, as we've done before. So I am looking forward to these machines. They're really cool. I got to play with a couple of them. So I'm really excited about that and getting them into the hands of kids and see what they can do with them. As I mentioned, I had a number of students. I've had more than I usually have in the end of the year come and say, Mr. Kelly, I want to get a laptop, or my parents want to buy me a laptop for a graduation gift for next year. What do you recommend? And so I was going to kind of talk about my process, what I do, but also what I recommended to them and what that looks like and what that sounds like. So the first question, this might be the obvious one, but it's also easy to kind of let this slide. The first question is exactly how much do you want to spend? Straight up. If you want to spend a couple $100, I want to spend $300. I want to spend $500. I want to spend $1,000 or whatever. The reason why that's so important to start with is because if you say I want to spend $500 on a laptop, you can spend $510, $515, $512, whatever. You can keep going up higher to higher, and you'll get a, you know, technology has very, very subtle increments, and each one is a little bit better, perhaps, most likely. But you know, so really you have to set your price first. Whatever you set the price is, that's what you're going to get at that time. And then also has to discuss about the idea of if you can wait as long as you can. Technology is no investment. As soon as you buy something, it is not worth what you just paid for it because it just goes so fast. As long as it will do what you're asking it to do, we'll always do that, right? So if you are, you know, you want them to try to wait as long as they can before they absolutely, I really need to have this by now. So, you know, would I buy one now for a student starting in the fall? Maybe, depending on my situation. But if you can wait a month, you know, or 2 months, or whatever it is, the longer you wait, the more that you get bang for your buck. The more money that will be spent will be worth more, basically, in technology funds. So that said, once I've got my price established, I've got my we've got to buy it. It's ready. It's time to pull the trigger. The next thing, I usually start at this website here, and I really like this one. I think I brought this up before. It's called the Wirecutter, and it's now owned by the New York Times. It didn't used to be, but now it's owned by the New York Times. It's basically a review site. They have all kinds of different things, you know, like they'll review gardening stuff, electronics, or kitchen stuff, or whatever. And so the reason why I like it is because they make their money. They don't make ads or anything like that. They make their money off of resell links. So if you do like one, click on the link. They get a little small, you know, let's say it goes to Amazon or something, they get a little small kickback from Amazon that they sent you there. But even if you're not interested in buying it, looking at this to buy, this is a great resource. They talk about, you know, all kinds of different, which version you want, which Chrome OS or Mac or Windows or whatever. They give you different levels of cost, different budget levels. And so this is really a good place to start if you're not sure. The next question really is, after you get your price set, is what flavor do you want? Are we talking, basically there's three main flavors: Mac, PC, or Windows, or Chromebook. Those are the three major players here. And it's not that one is you know, definitively better than all the other ones. Like, this is the one, because generally speaking, you know, Macs are thought as being better as far as, you know, the build quality, which is probably true. But of course, the cost is much higher too. And plus, you're not able to do certain things that you can do on other devices as well. So generally speaking, your lowest cost and your safest machine. And what I mean by that is not so much safe as far as, you know, privacy stuff, but safe as far as how much maintenance do you have to do to it. So if I buy, you know, a used vehicle, buy a used car, and it's kind of an old junker, I didn't pay as much for it, but I have to do all the upkeep, right? I have to make sure that, oh, I got to go do this, I got to do that, or whatever. If I go buy a brand new car, yes, I pay a lot more money for it, but maybe the first, whatever, 10,000 miles are covered under warranty or whatever it is. And so this is kind of where we're at. Chromebooks are generally the cheapest or least expensive, and they're pretty bulletproof as far as viruses and malware and that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about that stuff because, generally speaking, because there's nothing actually on the machine. It's basically a terminal to the web. And so many of us, in this district have certainly are pretty comfortable in Chromebooks. We've done a lot of stuff with them, but that doesn't mean they can do everything, right? There are certain things that Chromebooks just literally just can't do, just the way that they're built. The next step up would be PCs, and not so much the next step up as far as cost. There are very low cost PCs, $200, $300, $400 PCs, so laptops. And what you're getting there, the trade-off there is that basically, like, you have to be maintenance. You have to make sure that you have antivirus on it. You have to make sure that you're running that kind of stuff, and that it's not just installing anything anytime, especially for students. One of the biggest vectors for piracy or malware stuff is kids go on and like, oh, I'm going to play this video game. I want to play this cool dirt bike game. And click here to accept this download. Sure, whatever. And they click on it, and then they have something bad on it. So if you're somebody that your students or your children or somebody will handle as far as making sure stuff is safe and protected and all that kind of stuff, then PCs are perfectly fine. Plus, there's things that you can do on them that you can't do on, say, Chromebooks as well, as far as software and some other types of things. And then finally, of course, the Macs. The Macs are great. They're very expensive. You're kind of paying for the build quality. So I think the cheapest one starts at a little bit under $1,000, maybe like $900, and that's great. You're paying for the build quality as far as physically, how sturdy it is. As many of you know, we had Mac laptops running in the district, when we had those old white ones for about a decade, and so if you look at most Chromebooks, even the ones that are like the most sturdy built, 10 years later, a decade later, probably they're when we run it, just they're not physically built the same. But you're also, the other factor about it as far as the Mac laptops go is it's a wholly different operating system. You may not be used to it. There's other things there that are kind of involved as far as, it's just a different set of tools. So like I said, I would start with my price. Where do I want to start there? I had, like I said, I had certain students come to me, seniors, Mr. Kelly, I want to buy a laptop. And we go through this process. What's your price range? What are you comfortable with using? Does your school require certain applications? Like, do you have to use a PC because there's some program that they require you to run or whatever? And so most of the schools will give you that kind of heads up about that ahead of time. All right. Any hardware questions as far as, like I said, I usually start this site here, but this will send me to other places. If you are interested in the Chromebooks, this right here is a great website. So this is ChromebookChart.com, and you can look in here and say, you know what, I really want a Chromebook no less than 13 inches screen. I want a nice big screen for it, and I can kind of sort by this, and it'll tell me whatever the latest is. Okay, so these are the latest ones, and I want to make sure I have a minimum of 4 gigs RAM, and I would say I wouldn't even look at a Chromebook less than 4 gigs RAM. So starting there, and then other things like, do I want it to be, a convertible to flip around, that kind of stuff. Let's see, touchscreen. Do I need that? And as I start scrolling down here, I'll see these will kind of limit and say, oh yeah, this one looks pretty cool. What's this one about? It'll give me more information. It will show me exactly how much it costs, where I can buy it, whatever. Couple questions from the chat. How do you figure out what the price range should have a machine that will do what you need? Yeah, so start, if you want to start from what you need, if you know you need to do video editing, for example. Video editing typically is the big marker here. Now, none of us in education generally, unless you're like upper level, are doing high graphics renders like computer graphics, movies or something like that. So usually video editing is kind of the marker as far as what you're able to do with it. So when we're talking speed and we're talking power, we're usually talking the processor or RAM, that kind of stuff. Your best bang for your buck, the cheapest amount that you can spend but still get the most return from it is typically RAM. So if you can get a machine with 8 gigs, that's great. The other thing too is hard drives, and what I mean by that is not storage, not how much it can hold, but specifically if it's an SSD, which is a solid state drive. Nowadays, it used to be that all of our hard drives were actual platters spinning. They look like CDs almost, if you took them out and looked at them, and they were spinning around at a certain speed. Now they're being replaced, or hopefully all have been replaced by SSDs, which is solid state drives. The cool thing about that is those are much faster. So with an SSD, and with, you know, at least 8 gigs of RAM, anything you're going to do basically on the web, and that includes even things like WeVideo or whatever, you know, your Chromebooks, your PCs or whatever will be fine. If you're looking to do higher level graphic design or, you know, video editing or CG rendering, which again, I don't think many of us are doing that here at school, then that's the next level up. That's the level that beyond what we're doing here. Minimum performance specs to look for. Like I said, I wouldn't get anything less than 8 gigs of RAM. That's a marker right there. Your hard drive space isn't as big a deal as it used to be. It used to be a big deal because everything had to go on it. If most stuff now or can be web-based, right? So I can have Google Drive and store my stuff or whatever. So that's all cool. So that's kind of a preference. You know, I probably wouldn't go less than say 64 gigs for a hard drive, just because, you know, the cost difference to go the next level up is negligible. And then the other question is like screen size. What's the minimum screen size that you feel comfortable working with? 11 or 13 or 15 or whatever. Is it an IP to part that sends the updates? Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so Nate has a great question about like updates and that kind of stuff. So for Chrome OS, for the Chromebooks, we push out updates pretty much. Now, the other thing that's a factor, a realization, so the Chromebooks that were being sold, that's who sold, when you buy a Chromebook, whatever, they guarantee 7 years of support and updates. Okay, so whenever it was new, so let's say 2001, 2021, so 7 years from now, so 2028, it's not that that machine will suddenly stop working per se, it's that it will stop getting updates beyond that. So the machines that they're selling right now for, I believe it's $30, which is a good deal for that machine. It's a pretty good machine for that money. I think there's 2 more years left on that service. And what that means is, you know, as the new update comes out, you'll be able to update it and it will stay that way. After that, it will still work. It doesn't like suddenly just destroy itself and up in a puff of smoke. It will still work. It just doesn't get the latest updates as they go forward. Now, who cares? Well, you probably don't care. It will probably still work for a while. Eventually, there'll come a point where, oh, it just is so old that it just won't work anymore. You know, I mean, certain websites that won't work, or just like everything, right? Like on technology, you know, you'll go to a website and it's just not, it needs a newer version or whatever. So eventually, they won't become very useful. No, I wasn't presenting. Oh, you guys want me to show you something? I can present. I was just showing the let me go back one here. This is the Chromebook Chart website. So if you want to see it, so again, this is, if I'm in the market for Chromebooks, this is where I would start, because basically what it does is, let me jump back here for a second. Chromebooks are constantly getting updated, new ones coming out, all kinds of stuff like constantly. So it's hard to keep up with. And so again, I would put minimums in here. So the first thing I would start with, I will not even look at anything less than 4 gigabytes of RAM. And even then, I would really probably like to have 8. Again, that's a cost question, but I'd probably like to have 8. Storage, I'd probably start at 64 minimum. And if you notice here, these sliders, these will adjust the list here so I can make it so, okay, I want a 13-inch screen. And so this kind of narrows it down to which things are like this. I want a touch screen as well. So let's look at this one right here. These are the ones actually, we just got some for some teachers right here, the Galaxy Chromebooks. These are really nice machines. They're very expensive. These wouldn't run, actually, they're not this model. It's a little bit different, but the screens of these are beautiful. So again, it comes down to cost. If I look at the cost, this cost is really high, I'm sure, on Amazon right now. Actually, it's a little bit lower than I thought, $700. So that's a really expensive Chromebook, but that's a really good Chromebook. Whoops, in the sense that you know, it's a convertible. It has a little pen that comes with it. The screen's really nice. The battery life is really good. You know, the only drawback of this Chromebook is for $700 or $730, could you get an equivalent PC that does a little bit more? Probably, you probably could, but realize that you're going to be doing the maintenance of that. You know, is it worth are you going to get a headache from like having to make sure it's all, you know, secure? Now, today's day and age, I would be very hesitant of handing any high school age student or middle schooler or whatever, even a college-bound student, a PC unless I knew that they knew what they were doing. Because if they're not good about keeping up on, oh yeah, I have to make sure I update my antivirus or that kind of stuff, it's not that they're going anywhere malicious or doing anything wrong per se. It's just that stuff, you know, cruft or stuff will get on there just because they go visit a website and it starts to slow down and it gets, you know, whatever. It's more problematic. Chromebooks I won't say they can't have this, but as so far, they really can't. They're not installing anything on the machine itself. So it's almost impossible to have viruses. Not impossible, but almost impossible. Macs are in a different category. If you look at, we in Maine think Macs are everywhere because we had 1-to-1 for so long across the state. If you look at the percentage worldwide, the number of computers, Macs are less than 5%. So they're really not that prevalent. And because of that, if you are somebody that is trying to write a virus to put out ransomware, to try to get somebody money from somebody, you're probably not going to write it for a Mac because it's not worth your time. Like if it's only 5% of the population versus 95% for PCs. So that's one of the reasons. That said, it's not that, again, that they can't have viruses or any of that kind of stuff. They just typically don't. And they haven't in the past compared to other things. And then, a lot of kids too, like there is a factor of the ecosystem, right? So Samsung does this, Apple certainly does this, and other companies where I've got an iPhone, I've got an Apple laptop, I've got an Apple Watch, or whatever. They really want you to buy in that whole ecosystem so all things kind of play well together. Now, it costs a lot of money to be in the ecosystem. Every piece is generally more expensive than the equivalent device on a different brand. You look at Apple devices, whatever, you're kind of paying for that privilege of having those things. One thing that's a big push right now, I think it's kind of, I don't know, funny, is they're talking a lot about privacy. And so there's a new app. If any of you guys have your iPhone, you get see this new pop-up that's popped up that said, "Hey, Facebook or any of the other websites, are you sure you want to give them all your information?" And say no and whatever. That's fine. The reality is Apple, just like all the other companies, are doing the same thing. They are still keeping your it's called first-party data collection. So they're still keeping your information. It's just they're not giving it to a third party. So and again, Google's doing the same thing. Facebook obviously would be. All the big players are doing that. So anyway, it's another kind of possible point of what you're willing to pay for and so forth. So I think I've got the questions. If any questions, if I missed something, please throw it in the chat and I'll try to get that. I do want to share this website, mostly just for fun, but I think this is kind of a, again, now that we're able to start to get out again, we start looking at places you might be interested in visiting or whatever. I just came across this somewhere, but it's called virtualvacations.us. And it's unlike Google Earth, which you can kind of zoom in and kind of do street view and walk around that way. This is the same idea, but for example, here's a walking tour, so I can click on that. And they have driving, they have flying, they have different ones, and I can choose a city. So I can look over here. There's Berlin, Milan, San Francisco, Moscow, Chicago. Let's see. Let's go to Paris. Why not? So I can click on the city here. And it will just do as if you're walking around. They must have had a headset that they can actually walk around, and this will just be walking around the cities of Paris or the streets of Paris. And they have all kinds of different cities. It's kind of fun. Like I said, they have different tours. I can jump to different places. Let's see, let's go to Venice. Anywhere you in Venice you look, it's going to be beautiful, right? So here I am walking around Venice now. And so they have a bunch of different ones. There's actually a game connected with this. Go back one more. City Guesser. So you can, they'll give you, let's do worldwide here. They'll try to guess where you are. Now this is a pretty easy one. I'm right in London. There's Big Ben right there. So I can start guessing down here. And I am in London. That's an obvious one. Big Ben. Let's see. Boom. So close I got. Hey, pretty good. Mile away. Well, we'll do another one. It's not quite as easy. All right, so we're trying to figure out where in the world we are. And what you'll do, it's kind of fun, is as you go through, you'll start seeing languages, different languages. That's how you kind of pick up, or stores. There's a flag. So I have no idea where I am right now. But I'll start guessing. We're just going to guess. That's English. That's a good sign. I don't know. We'll just guess somewhere in Russia. I don't even know. Guess. Nope. I was in the Netherlands. So anyway, just kind of a fun website. I thought this was pretty cool. If you do any kind of geo stuff with your kids, plus you can do random stuff. So virtualcities.us. Brazil. That was a good guess. I should have guessed Brazil. All right, we'll do one more. Do one more. Nate's going to guess with me this time. Let's do the next one. Nope. Oh, you can speed it up. Let's see. We're in. You have any guesses? Want to guess Brazil? All right, we're going to guess Brazil. UK? Oh, Ukraine. Who knows? Anyway, all right. I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. We really, I think this is probably it. Like I said, I mentioned before, I am going to try to do some stuff over the summer. So if you want to just, videos, tutorial type stuff, just to keep it going, to get ready for next year. I do want to do this again next year, even if we're not remote, even if we're all face-to-face or whatever, but do it like at a time when people can join or just watch it later, and have more students involved. I think that was kind of a good add-on this year. I know the kids get a lot out of it. They prepare for it and so forth. So we'll keep this rolling for next year. Now that we have all this wonderful equipment, we're very fortunate to have, and get everything geared up and ready to go for the future. So thank you guys, everybody, and I will talk to you later.